Hi guys, it's Kelly Latevola here and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today we are using the Gnome Place Like Home set. Gnomes are it right now, y'all. They are so adorable and they are everywhere. I'm also going to be using the Silent Night stamp sets and then the Jingle All the Way stamps and dies. So it's been a hot minute since I have done a scene card. I knew that's what I wanted to do with this. Here I'm just basically I have all my masks cut out for all the pieces parts I want to put on there. Since I'm doing a one layer scene, I'm going to have to cut the masks anyway, so for me it's super helpful to cut them out first, so that way I can use them to like just get my scene together. They're super easy to move around. So if you're new to scene cards, try that. Try cutting out your masks first, so that way you can lay everything out and make sure that it fits. Because originally, once I did this, I was going to use the Let It Snow sentiment, and I could not make it, well, I could make it fit, but I couldn't make it balanced. Like the design just wasn't balanced with the way that sentiment was drawn. So I ended up changing it and switching it out to the Jingle All the Way sentiment, which both still work for the purpose that I need them to work for, so it's fine, but it just didn't look right. Like it looked super left-hand heavy. But I wanted, like the way it's drawn, I wanted it to be on the right-hand side, but I didn't have room for the right-hand side. So, anywho. So then they're also really helpful for placement. So with all of my masks in place, I just lay my stamps right over the mask, so I know exactly where it will stamp. This does only work in a stamp position, or I prefer the Misty, but it will work with anything that you've got. Or if you're old school, Stamp-A-Majig will also work. You'll notice as we're doing the first part of the filming, there's like a blurry spot in the center of the camera. I apologize for that. That is Peanut's handiwork. He was making cards when Thursday he was making cards, and he wanted to film and all of that stuff. So because he likes to touch the camera and the zooming and the in and out, he got little fingerprints on the actual lens of the camera. I don't really look at the camera when I'm filming. I'm more paying attention to what I'm doing as far as card making. So I didn't notice it until later on. So I will clean off the lens eventually and that blurry spot will go away, but it does take me a hot minute to realize that it's there. So I got all my gnomes stamped down. When you're doing a one layer card, you stamp whatever you want to see all of first. So whatever's in the front, like my little gnome girl, she's in the very front. She got stamped first. Then I stamped the other two gnomes behind her, masked them off, and then I will stamp the presents, and then the ornaments. And that is one of the things, we talked about the placement, using the masks for placement. The ornaments will actually be super helpful to place on the tree mask, so I can see where they will be before I stamp them. Otherwise, I would just be stamping them willy-nilly and then hope that they made their way onto the tree in a place that made sense. But because of the stamp positioner, I can actually figure out where exactly they will be going right over my mask. So that's super nice. So I did say all things gnomes are everywhere. They are. Gnomes are the trend right now. And in card making, there's always, just like in home decor, there's always trends. Here, like they just, like gnomes are it, and I think that they're adorable. I would never have thought to use them for Christmas, but I do think that they are super cute. I actually, when I had the idea for this card, I had pulled these stamps out. They've been sitting in the corner of my desk for a couple of weeks now, with my intention to use them. Just, side-eyeing me, just eyeballing me up, like, why aren't you using us? And so my friend Michelle actually does like a Christmas challenge thing, where she works with other card makers and they pick a different challenge. And so the challenge that we did, since I got to pick it, was non-traditional Christmas colors, because y'all know I feel like red and green is straight Christmas and I cannot help it. So I picked non-traditional Christmas colors, and I know I used green, but really, honestly, what else color was I supposed to make that tree, right? I tried to use other colors, some blue violets, some blues, some violets, some pinks, and still make it feel very Christmassy, very holiday-like, without the traditional red and green, but I had to use some green. I don't feel bad about it. So just moving through here, stamping out those ornaments, masking them as I go, because once they are stamped and masked, I will be able to stamp my tree over top of them, and the ornaments will still be in the front. So yeah, that's that. I was talking to Eric before I was editing my video, and he's like, what story are you going to tell? And I was like, I have no idea. I'm out. I got a lot of things going on, but some of them I'm not ready to share yet. So he suggested that I tell some stories from vacation that I have not told yet. So right now that's the game plan. Before I get into that, I do just quickly want to ask a favor from you. I have a friend named Lisa, and I'm not going to go into her thing because it's her personal business, but if you are the praying type, her family could certainly use it. They're just kind of in a spot right now and going through some really, really hard things. And I love her so much. And I cannot even imagine the things that she's dealing with. And she's so strong and amazing and dealing with those things so gracefully. But she could definitely use some prayers. So if you could include her in yours, I would greatly appreciate that. And so here onto the scene. I told you I wanted to make it a scene. I just used you can see me getting frustrated because I can't pick up anything. My nails are getting too long. It's about time to trim them down. Speaking of nails, is this nail polish color not just totally adorable? Normally I don't like blues on my nails. I know blue's my boyfriend, but blue on my nails just doesn't look great. I can do a navy though. And this is a navy. This is Ryan by Zoya, which I had never used before, but it was gifted to me for my birthday. And then the glitter top coat that's on top is called Dream, and it's amazing. This stuff covers so good, y'all. Yeah, so anywho, I just sketched out a little hill on some masking tape. This is the Post-it note one. And I'm just using that to create a little hill in the background here. I'm using my traditional go-to night scene colors because I want the snow that I plan on stamping to show up really, really well. So that's how I ended up with this. It certainly doesn't have to be a night scene, but I wanted that snow to like pop. So vacation stories that I have not told. So as you know, if you've listened to my channel, that we went on vacation. Me, Peanut, Eric, and my sister, we went to Carolina Beach, drove down there and back. And then before I was like, I can't remember if I've told this story or not. I feel like I touched on vacation. So if I did tell this story, then please forgive me, and you're going to have to listen to it again. So my apologies. So in the process of packing to go on vacation, I had packed all of Peanut's stuff. I was in the process of packing all of my stuff, and I had done some laundry. And Peanut asked me if he could pack some things into his suitcase. And I was like, yeah, that's totally fine. Like, just put in there, whatever it is that you want to wear or whatever. So I was like, okay, that's cool. So then we pack up the truck, leave, everything else. So it's, we stopped halfway down. I did not give him a bath that night. It just really was not worth it in the hotel to get out all of his bath things and everything else. So I did not give him a bath that night. So the first day that we got down there at about, I don't know, like 1 o'clock-ish, I want to say. I feel like it was around 1. Might have been a little bit later than that. Here I use that same hill and just what was ever left over on my ink blending to create a hill a secondary hill in the background. You'll notice with the Copic coloring, it's actually all 2-color blends. So normally I do very detailed coloring, which I totally love. But when you have a scene that has this many elements in it, you don't necessarily need it, and I really wanted to show you that. I know a lot of people who watch my channel are beginner when it comes to Copic coloring. You can get dimension and good shading with just 2 colors. So that's what I'm doing here. I will tell you that doing the Copic coloring with only 2 colors, sometimes you got to work a little harder to make them blend. But that's okay. Don't pick colors that are too close to each other. So like I'm used a G05 and then I'm shading with a G28. These are levels and levels away from each other. But if I didn't use a darker green, if I went with like a G05 and a G07, it would have no dimension. It would be super flat. So that's one of the things with picking the colors you have to pay attention to, is you need them to be fairly far apart or they're not going to give you any shading at all. It'll just look like flat color and then you'll be disappointed. I am going to go back over, do my lightest color because it gives a good set. Like if it's saturated and it's wet, it allows the other color to blend a little bit better. Then I'll take my lightest color, go back over my darkest to blend that out. This isn't going to be completely smooth, but it's a tree. It's not supposed to be, so I'm not worried about that. As far as the other blending on the gnomes and on the gifts, those ones were a little bit closer together. Not as far apart as like the tree, but like I used a VO4 and a VO6. I tested it out beforehand to make sure they were far enough apart. Same thing with the BV02 and the BV04. I used an RV04 and an RV09. So just try them out beforehand before you get to work on your project. The C1 and the C3 are far enough apart for the grays. That's no issue. But anywho, so back to this vacation thing. So we got there around like 1 o'clock, I think. 1 or 3. It was in the early-ish afternoon, and we decided we were going to go to the beach, and then we were going to go to the pool. And so we did that. Peanut and I went over to the pool, and then it was like around, we were getting ready to go back in and eat. My sister and I were sitting there, having conversation, and Eric volunteered to take Nathan back, get him into the shower, and get him dressed. So he does that, and Michelle and I are sitting there, chatting at beachside or whatever, blah, blah, blah. We decide we're done. We're going to, we're going to come back into the little condo that we have rented, and as we're walking in the door, I hear Eric say, "It's called going commando. It's no big deal." And I'm like, what is going on here? So I walk in there and he was like, "Yeah, so heads up, your kid did not pack any underwear." And I was like, "No, he did, because I packed it." And he was like, "No, I'm telling you, there's no drawers in there. There's none in there." So I'm like, "What?" So he's like, "Yeah, pretty much it's just pajamas. That's all that's in the suitcase, Kelly. Just pajamas." So I look, and sure enough, that's really all that is in there, is pajamas and socks. So while I told my child he could pack his, put some extra shirts or whatever in there, he decided that he was going to take out what mommy put in there to make room for what he wanted in there, which was really just jams. So I needed to take a shower, and I was like, okay, I'll hop in the shower and then take him to go get clothes and underwear. And he was like, "Well, I'll just take him while you shower, because you still have to I was making dinner." So he ended up taking him to just Walmart or whatever was around there, and picking out some drawers and some summer clothes, since we didn't have any. And it ended up being fine, and he was very sweet to take him to do that. So yeah, that's vacation story number 1. I let my child travel, 3-4 states away with no clean drawers and only pajamas. That was a thing in our life. So now, obviously, I know better. I will have to make sure that I double check his suitcase before we go anywhere, ever, because he cannot be trusted. Then, this was the second or third night. We had dinner at home. It's just cheaper that way. Even though I don't necessarily love cooking on vacation, it is much, much cheaper, especially when you're going to be there for a week and you're staying at a place that has a kitchen. It's just cheaper to cook in. So that's what we did mostly. We did go out. We decided we were going to go out and get ice cream. So we're walking down the street, on the shoulder of the street, and we had looked for an ice cream place, and so I had the GPS on my phone, and we're just going down the street, and I am walking in front with Nathan on my left-hand side. So the traffic is to my right, Nathan's on my left. And so then Eric is walking with Michelle, and he makes her, like, switch spots. And so I was teasing him, because he always does the same thing with me as well. When we're walking down the street, he wants to be on the outside toward traffic. And he's like, that's just what you're supposed to do. Like, you should be, I should be the one exposed to traffic, not you. And so I was, teasing him about chivalry isn't dead and all of that stuff. And so we're walking and walking and walking. And at some point, I realize that, like, the GPS, like, it's not working. Like, it says we're getting farther away from it. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. What is wrong with this GPS? Like, is it a bad signal? Is it whatever? Blah, 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 blah. So we had walked for probably like a good 15 minutes before I just realized that we were walking in the wrong direction. So that took me a minute to realize. I'm not proud of it, but that was what it was. And so we obviously have to turn around. So now I do the same thing. Peanut and I are in front. Now he's on my right-hand side away from traffic. And Michelle and Eric are behind us, and she's on his right-hand side away from traffic. And we're, like, chatting as we're walking and just, la, 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 la. And then all of a sudden I hear this huge, like, boom. And I turn back and I'm like, what was that? And Eric is like, that was that car hitting me. No joke, folks. He totally got hit by a car. The woman, I don't know if she was texting or what, but she came over the white line into the shoulder, and actually her side mirror hit him. It, like, grazed his side and then hit the back of his arm, which, thank God, it wasn't an inch lower, because she would have totally shattered his elbow. So she hits him, and then she stops, I don't know, maybe like 100 feet up, and she just stops in traffic, doesn't even get out of her car, rolls down her window, and she was like, what was that? Now, this girl's mirror is busted. It's, like, hanging off the side of her car. And Eric's like, that was you hitting me with your car. And she's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even see you there. I'm so sorry. And, like, she was a pizza delivery person. She had the little sign on top of her car or whatever. And I was like, what do you want to do? And Eric was just like, just go. Like, I'm not injured or whatever. He was like, I mean, it hurts, but not anything that's crazy. And, like, sent her on her way. So we probably should have called, and reported it, because she was probably on her phone or doing something she wasn't supposed to be doing. But Eric told me later, he's like, I was trying to keep myself in check from not just losing my mind, because obviously Peanut is standing there on the side of the road as well. So thankfully he was okay. There wasn't any real damage, and actually, like, he barely even had a bruise the next day, which is shocking to me, considering, he got hit by a car. So we thought for sure that there would be, this gigantic black and blue mark, but there wasn't. He was a little bit sore, but that's about it. But it was funny, like, funny ironic, not like funny haha. Getting hit by a car is not funny. But that, like, we had just been talking about how he insists on walking on the outside edge, and that, chivalry isn't dead and all that. Because had my sister been on the outside, Eric's about 5'10"-ish. My sister is 4'11". So, like, that would have been her, like, shoulder, like, height for as short as she is. So it could have clearly been much, much worse. And I'm very grateful that he wasn't more injured. But then, I was like, what do you want to do? And he's like, well, I'm not going to get hit by a car and not get ice cream. So we continued on to the ice cream place, which actually we found, like, a ice cream / shake shop thing that was before the one that Google had told us about. So we ended up going there, and it really was very, very good ice cream. So I asked him, I said, was your strawberry shake worth getting hit by a car over? And he said it was pretty good. He doesn't know if he'd do it again, but it was pretty delicious. So there's that. So what do we got? We had no clothes. We got hit by a car. I'm trying to think if there was any other. We only really had one day that was any kind of rainy, which was nice. And they have like the boardwalk that you can walk down, and it's got like a bunch of fair rides and stuff. But I learned my lesson that last summer about riding any rides with Peanut. You know, you remember the boat thing. Never doing that again. And I think Peanut also learned his lesson. We went down there for the fireworks the one night, which were super cool. I guess they do fireworks like every Thursday, so that was nice. And then we were going to go play putt-putt, but then we ended up... What did we do? We ended up doing something else. I think hitting the shops, and then there was something else Nathan wanted to do. I don't remember what it was. But so that was fun. But yeah, so that was... I think those were the only 2 vacation stories that I did not share with you, was him getting hit by a car. Which was just crazy. I mean, just wild. I don't know about you guys, but like I clearly, like, just because of the job I've had, you know, pedestrians or bicyclists or whatever be struck by vehicles. It's not a totally uncommon thing in my life. In fact, when I was young, my neighbor, who is still one of my best friends, we were the same age, she was right, like, our driveways all had hills, but really most of them were only like slight inclines. But Amy, there was the one right across the street from me, and it's a very large hill. Well, Amy was riding bikes with my sister, and I was out there, but I was like in the driveway, and Amy came down this hill on her what do they call them? Big wheels? Yeah. Big wheels, that's what they were called back then. And she just hit like right out into the street down this hill and was hit by a car. And then like one of the neighbors came running in the house, and they thought it was me, so they're yelling to my mother, like, just come running up in our house, Kelly just got hit by a car. And so Amy's mom was actually at my house. So my mom and her mom are like shoving their way down the hallway to get out the door because they think I've just been hit by a car. And in all reality, when they got outside, it was actually Amy. So she was just barely clipped by the back bumper of the car. And to be honest, like, I was too young to even really know what was happening. But I think Amy probably hit the car. Like, not that the car hit her. Amy probably rode right into the side of the car. But she was mostly fine. Like, they still did take her, you know, to the hospital, but there wasn't any permanent injury or anything like that. Thank God. But I did not have that, though I am hyper paranoid about it as a parent. I think I cannot believe that I would be the only one. I'm just like constantly, especially like with the walking home from school, because there's just so many vehicles and everybody moving and everybody wanting to get out of there. They're not wait their turn in line, go around cars, everything else. I'm just super paranoid about it. So, anywho, back to the card. I outlined everything, and then I'm going to go in and add some details with my white gel pen, like I do. I added a little bit of garland to the tree. I added some polka dots to the little girl's hat and some stripes to the green hat, the one that's a solid color. And then just a couple of little things to the presents. I'm going to make sure that this distress ink is completely dry because I'm going to be doing some heat embossing. So I heated it with my heat gun for quite some time, and now I'm just testing it with some embossing powder to make sure nothing's sticking where I don't want it. I'm going to stamp my sentiment, which is this Jingle All the Way. I really wanted to do the snow in the background. I am just rubbing this anti-static bag all over the place. And I'm going to stamp this in clear embossing ink. So I really wanted to do the snow. I thought it would be super cute and just another little element. But I was very, very nervous because I was doing a white heat embossed sentiment, that if I put the snow over the sentiment, that you would not be able to read it. It would be completely illegible. So I am going to put on the white embossing powder. I don't know why I couldn't think of that word. I'm going to put on the white embossing powder, and I'm going to clean that up with a paintbrush just anywhere that it's stuck that I didn't want it to. And then I'm going to heat set this. But after I heat set it, I am going to actually use the companion dies to cut it out. So this does make it not a complete one layer card. But my thought process was I could take the sentiment out, and then that leaves me just this background here to stamp the snow on. And this snow is included in the Silent Night set. So it's kind of like the drifty little snow. So I do have it about, I don't know, maybe a half an inch down the page, because I'm going to stamp it one way and then flip it around and stamp it the other way so that it comes just a little bit further down the background. And then that way the sentiment is clean because it's not part of this. I did have a little bit of embossing powder stick where I didn't want it to, and I think that's where the tape was, which got me the last time, if you remember. So I just really need to start remembering to go over that area with my adhesive eraser. So that's stamped twice now in just clear ink. I'm going to do the same thing that I did before, the white embossing powder, and just coat this. I wanted it to be a little bit more flowy, like all down the background, like the snow was falling all down the background. So after I get done heat setting all of this, and you can see it starting to melt there, I'm going to go back in with my white gel pen so that I can fill in some of those gaps all along the top. And then I'm also going to extend it down the bottom. I varied my circles. Some of them are larger, some of them are smaller, just so that it would kind of blend in with what was already there. I think it came out super cute, and then the sentiment, cutting out the sentiment, totally served my purpose for sure, because you can still totally read what it says. So I'm just going to put this panel down, just glue that down flat onto a card base. I could have done a darker blue so like you wouldn't be able to see the white, but it didn't really bother me any to be able to see the white from the side. And then I'm going to cover the sentiment in just a ridiculous amount of foam tape because it has all these like little parts that stick out. I had to do some smaller pieces, but I wanted it to be really stable. This little piece gave me a little bit of trouble, kind of tricky there. It kept wanting to come off of my finger. And then I'm going to put this down. I got a little bit to the left, so I kind of had to pick it up a little bit so that it was sitting where it should be. But ultimately, it got where it was supposed to go. You can still read it, and it doesn't look weird. I'm going to put some glitter on just pretty much all of my things. So on the gnomes, on the ornaments, all of that, because I love the glitter. And then on the presents as well. And then that's it. That's the whole card. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope to see you again soon, and I will catch you on the next video.